We are the Meltdown here with yet another movie review for the Summer 24 blockbuster season. I am Meltdown host Tim Melton, and I have a panel here to discuss A Quiet Place Day 1. Spoilers will be included in this review. If you have not yet seen the movie and you want to go in completely blind like one of these death angels, then feel free to go ahead and pause this, save it, and come back and watch this review after you have seen the movie. We will also be including spoilers for A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place Part 2. It's all fair game here to be discussed. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy this review of A Quiet Place Day 1. John Lunsford is here with me. John, this is a franchise that you actually kind of appreciate as a non-horror fan because it's PG-13 and you feel like even though it's intense, it leans maybe more into the alien aspect than it does just the pure horror of the situation throughout the entire, I would say the entire trilogy at this point.
Yes, it's a good it's a good trilogy. And the theater going experience. Okay. Is like this.
John quit. Everybody's clicking off the video.
Sorry. That's what it's like every single freaking time. Now, even the ones I like, I had to get that off my chest. Anyway, yes, the movies are good. The first one was good.
No, I have to stop you. I have to pause you here because we were in separate screenings.
Yes.
And my screening was abysmal with the amount of noise within. And you've hit on an important topic here. We got to just address it quickly and then move on to the actual movie because we won't get around back to this. I had one kid next to me that was obsessed with playing with his chair the entire time.
I was about to say no, it's not. It's not that. It's the movie's going, it's normal, hasn't happened yet, right? Okay, we're going, they're going to the marionette show, she's wanting pizza, blah, blah, blah. Then an attack happens. Oh my gosh, what's happening? Then he doesn't move his chair until 30 minutes of the movie when it happens. It's like, you know what? I'm going to kick back and relax now. Exact same thing next to me. There were 5 teenagers that came and sat next to me.
Yep.
They walked into the movie as the movie was actually starting, not the previews, but like the minute A Quiet Place actually started. Then, one by one, they'd have to get up and go get popcorn and drinks. Then they all ordered food that then came after that. And I'm like, okay, at least the quiet part hasn't started yet because we know, because the very first screening, we went to go see the first one together, and it's like the wrappers going. The worst was like, you get candy and the wrappers going. It's like, okay, I know it's going to be like that.
At least during the silent movie era, they had music playing to where it drowned out probably the annoying crowd from the 30s. But
I can forgive food a little bit because we all have food and drink at the movies.
Sure.
So if you're taking a sip and you happen to catch a little air and it goes, okay. If you're crunching popcorn or nowadays with all the food options we have, okay. Even if you're hitting a candy wrapper, I wish you would have done it during the loud part, but okay, that's when you're trying to pay attention. But then the seats now. Yeah. Because when we saw the first one, we didn't have the reclining seats here, and now the reclining seats are pretty much everywhere. And we're going to wait till the quietest part when you really probably should be paying the most attention.
Yeah. I put on
those prime seats rub the row behind you too, so you can just hear it like scraping the whole way.
I made sure to wait until, oh my God, there's 500 monsters on the screen. I'm leaning back now. That's when I finally decided to lean back in my chair.
John, you're passionate about this. I am too, especially after having gone through it yesterday. Audiences and their behavior in films has deteriorated over time. Nothing reminds you of that more than when A Quiet Place movie comes out.
I complain about it in the loud movies. I definitely do now.
But it's really bad because the whole gimmick of these movies is the sound design and the absence of the sound. And the crowd almost takes it upon themselves as, oh, I'm uncomfortable by the silence, so let me make as much noise as possible. It's a psychological thing. And I'm telling you, people on my row, the candy wrappers, they were doing it on purpose, like as in a way to break the tension. It wasn't they were trying to get the candy open. It went on for 2 minutes. This is so fun.
I got mad earlier this year with Challengers when people were laughing at certain parts, and you're like, I think, it's kind of meant to be funny, and I was like, I'm trying to be serious about it, whatever. However you take it is fine. But in this movie, there was a whole group, and you could tell they were teenagers up at the top. I don't know if you heard them, Tyler, or not. But they were up at the top, and every time it got quiet, when anything would happen within the quietness, like, they're about to get attacked, or the cat's running around, or whatever. Things are still happening when it's quiet.
You pretty much spoiled the entire movie. Yes, they are running around. There's a cat. There's pizza, and that's it. I'm not saying that you did something wrong by spoiling it. I'm saying it's paper thin.
I'm helping people. But every time the quiet part hit, and then something would happen. In the back,
I did hear that. I was wondering where that was coming from.
So much.
There's nothing funny about this movie. This is not a comedy.
There was not a single joke.
It's like the cat just walks across the screen, and it's like, oh my god.
Well, how
you can control your mouth at least. I understand if you're crunching, or I guess that's your mouth too, but control what's coming out of your throat. Like, just come on, people, don't giggle. Yep. When it's dead quiet and we're all, it's to say, you're right, it's breaking the tension. I get what you're saying, and I guess people are doing that, but it's like, come on, people, you already did the seat, you already crunched your popcorn, you already slurped your drink, you have done everything possible.
But John, it's got to bring you some solace that in this universe, they'd be the first ones to die.
Yes.
Okay, let's now go ahead and move on to the actual movie. That's the only way I could get John to have the relief that he needed spiritually to actually get to the plot of the film.
Oh, yeah, I think he had another 30 minutes in
Okay,
it.
I did.
Let's think it's important, John, and I love how energetic you are. I do. And we have Laurel Lunsford here, and we have Tyler here, and it's going to be a fun conversation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, y'all are here too. Sorry.
Okay. John, I think the only proper way to talk about this movie is to talk about the expectations going in, and that is starting with A Quiet Place. It came out in, 2018?
2018.
With John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, this family that you immediately connected with on their trip to the store. They suffer a humongous tragedy, and next thing you know, boom, A Quiet Place pops up on the screen, and you're like, this movie's no holds barred. This thing's going to go for a PG-13. They're already killing kids. My gosh, what's the rules? What are these monsters? What's the environment? What's the situation? What happened to civilization? You have all these questions.
Yep.
You have all this energy.
Yep.
You have all this tenseness. And it is new, fresh, and it feels exciting, and it was masterfully directed, created. There's sacrifice. There's stakes. There's terror. There's the nail through the foot where people are like, oh my gosh, what is happening here?
Giving birth.
It is absolutely insane how effectively awesome that movie was.
100% agree.
We then get to part 2, and it's like, okay, I don't necessarily expect this to be the masterpiece of the first one, but I do expect it to continue the lore. I expect it to add some more weight, to give us a little bit more of a backstory. It actually is the first dose of a prequel that we get because it takes things back. And then we get to experience that sort of feeling of the attack. And then next thing you know, it jumps ahead and it helps fill in a lot of those gaps that we have, those burning questions. It adds to the lore. It makes the first one better. This one does none of that.
Correct.
And it hurts me because I expect now these movies to continue to add to the legacy of the first one, not detract from it, and it detracts maybe not even the word, but this is such a hollow experience. It is literally like Lupita Nyong'o, we're going to have her lead this, and she does a fantastic job in my opinion. She's great. She's an Academy Award winner. If you have not seen Us, I think it's one of the best horror movies of the past decade. I really love it. But it's her basically going from smoldering car to smoldering car, passing people in the street that are covered in denim. They all have the same costume somehow. They're all like, wear and tear is different maybe, but they're all wearing like some shade of denim jacket, walking down the street. Okay. And then all of a sudden it becomes just her in this massive city, right? New York is supposed to be, the setting is supposed to be, there's so many people. What's going to happen? It's going to be crazy. And for a majority of the runtime, it's her and Joseph Quinn and a cat running through the city. Where did all the people go? They didn't all land on the boat. They didn't all get killed. They're not all hiding. Oh, where are they?
I think this is one thing that John and I talked about as soon as it finished. I feel like there's a different movie out there. Like half of the things that were in the trailer were not in this movie. Like in the trailer, there were scenes where they were talking to other people. Like there were scenes where like they were like making a plan
with two other people talking to them.
I feel like this is a completely different movie because everything that we saw in the trailer, since this is spoilers, it all happened out of order for me. Like everything that we saw in the trailer is like backwards. Like you had the part with her walking down, like that doesn't happen until later. But then the part where like they're getting attacked, that's like one of the first scenes, like after they go to this like marionette show. I feel like there's a different, better version of this movie out there.
They didn't lift the review embargo until the day of the release.
But I think it has good reviews.
Well, it does, but like
it was a surprise to the studio. That's the plot twist. They didn't expect it to get good reviews, and it did. And they're like, "Oh yeah, we believed in this movie all along." Because they didn't.
I was wondering if they were going to play it as like, well, spoilers, because like Deadpool, let's say, like I can see them holding off on Deadpool till like the very last second because there's going to be all kind of spoilers in that when it comes to the MCU. I don't know if they will, but I could understand that. So
I already have a problem with leakers too.
Right. I could understand with this, hey, there's crazy spoilers, but there's nothing happens to be spoiled in this movie.
Nothing
Plus,
happens.
it's a prequel. We know what eventually kind of, ends up happening to the world after that. Like, my biggest problem with this movie is everything you said about the first two movies is correct. And you very much care about John Krasinski, and you feel it when he gets killed. You very much care about Emily Blunt and the kids.
The entire family. It's amazing.
You very much feel it for Cillian Murphy, who lost his family. Like, you very much feel it for the people on the island. Like, we've found the way to live. Oh, now there's a monster here. Like, everything about the first two movies works. And you feel for the characters. This one, I don't necessarily care because you didn't really get enough of a build-up other than she's sick.
She's sick. She's got an attitude.
And then you really don't know much about Eddie at all.
I think one thing, and I was actually talking to Tyler about this beforehand. I think that this is something that's wrong with media and movies nowadays anyway. I don't know why they're scared to have people be like in a relationship, like scared to have like. I mean, I can even go to like The Bear, like they try to like push like these strictly just like platonic relationships, which is fine. I understand, but at the same time, most people. You get a connection by seeing people like in love, seeing some type of relationship, not just like strangers. I honestly think in the scene, which I thought was good with them in the pizza place, if they had kissed, I would have rated this higher because then you would have felt something like these two people are kind of, in this weird situation and they found each other because it kind of borderline like they were kind of, they liked each other, like maybe they were falling in that short period of time.
I was waiting for it to happen, but they kind of teased and just did nothing.
I think if they did, that would have changed the perception of the movie to me.
To me, Joseph Quinn in this movie plays a mime, really, the entire time.
Pretty much.
A mime trying to make Lupita happy. And it just did not work for me.
And it's like, why would he be trying this hard if he didn't feel like, when he's risking his life to go get this medicine?
But they would never just like go into it.
Yeah.
But they would never back off of it either.
He won't leave her alone no matter how many times she's like, get away from me.
Which so that is like a love trope, yes.
I agree with you. Tyler.
But that's what made the original so good.
Exactly.
Is that you cared about the family of John Krasinski.
There was
and
a
Emily Blunt.
reason. It wasn't
you
just
cared about
two
the family
strangers.
Of Cillian Murphy.
And who wouldn't love two strangers falling in love, like at the end of the world? Like people would love that,
Here's one of the craziest things to me. I'm going to get to Tyler here in just a few seconds. The monster kills in this movie are all the same. Like every single one of them is swooping, or they miss, or there's no inventiveness with the kills. There's no inventiveness with the monsters. There's nothing that adds at all to what they came from even.
I do have one question. Have they always not been able to go into water? Is that a newer thing?
That's why the island worked.
Because I just remember the only thing I remember they were on an island, but in the first one, it's in the water when like Emily Blunt is like, it gets into the water because you're afraid that it's going to get like the baby.
I don't think it can't.
Maybe they just
touch
can't hold
the water. It just can't go into the water.
Maybe it can't for like a long period of time.
Because it went in the water and it was kind of flailing around for a little bit, but it drowned pretty quickly after that when they went like in the subway or whatever. So I think they could like touch the water. It's not like it's poison.
We still got like M. Night Shyamalan. Okay, so we still got the water thing going on. Okay.
Yes. Okay, Tyler, I think, and I'm kind of jealous of you, and I'll be honest of why. You have not seen the first Quiet Place. You have not seen Quiet Place Part 2.
Sorry. Correct. I've been covering my ears most of this review because John's just been casually dropping spoilers.
Well, I said that is completely
and y'all did warn everybody,
okay.
but I didn't know production needed to be warned too.
You've had a couple of years, Tyler, to watch these movies. I'm not using this as a way to criticize you. I'm using it as a way to say that I'm jealous of you. Because you got to go into this movie completely fresh. You don't know this world. You don't know how good this can be. You don't know the stakes. You just don't know what we've kind of been through with these other two movies. And the reason I'm jealous is because you can go in and watch this thing as an alien attack movie and just be like, that was a really cool alien attack movie. But the other movies are so much.
Is that not what it is?
I mean, yes.
That's what this is, but that's not what the series has been. The series has been so much weightier. And I think when you have a throwaway entry like this, that it's just one of those ways to like throw a third movie in a DVD bargain bin of like, you get all 3 movies. This is the one you'd never want to watch out of the 3.
If they do A Quiet Place Part 3, which I think is still in the works with Emily Blunt, then I'm still all in on that one. That hasn't changed my opinion of what those are, but when it comes to the trilogy, like, you can leave Day One out. I don't necessarily want that one. Make this the trilogy, and don't worry about giving me all 4 of them necessarily.
I get that it's a movie, but one thing that was just kind of, to me, which I'm glad nothing happened to it, but the cat miraculously appears constantly. I mean, and maybe in the way of thinking is it is supposed to be a service cat, so maybe it has been trained. But when he jumps into the water,
I don't think it was trained to swim through the sewers.
When he jumped into the water, and the cat doesn't even do anything. Like, the cat is not scratching for its life or anything. It's just like,
when he's running at the end, I'm like, is he going to run in there, jump in with that cat? Because that cat's going to sink like a rock to the bottom somehow.
And the cat was just like, you would think, I was like, oh no, the cat's gone. And then it's like, oh, nope, it's back. And then it's like, oh, it's gone. Oh, it's back. It was able to find him and not get attacked by anything in this city, which I was happy. I didn't want to see a cat die on screen.
Did you guys know the cat in this movie is voiced by Chris Pratt?
It wouldn't surprise me if there's like one meow in there and they got to pay him for it. But
Tyler, tell me how it felt to go in this and not have the weight of the other 2 affect your enjoyment of this film. How did that feel for you? Because there's a lot of people that probably have that same experience that are going to catch up on the other 2 and they'll be like, all 3 movies are great. And then you may be one of those people. I'd love to hear your perspective on this.
Yeah, so like you said, I don't have anything to compare it to. I was just walking in expecting, a decent horror sci-fi sort of movie. And then I was just blown away by how much sound design played a role in it and how much I was on the edge of my seat for the entire duration of the movie because I was constantly waiting on like a window to break, a soda can to fall, my camera to focus back in, and maybe whatever it is.
Maybe that's the brilliance of this movie is it's introducing the hook that we already know about to a new audience this many years later because that was 6 years ago? Mm-hmm. I mean, time flies. But John, give me one thing this movie does better that the other 2 do not. One thing that this movie does better than the other 2. Give me anything. Any single element. Because I honestly thought we were going to go to war over this one. And when I saw y'all out of the theater, I was like, thank goodness you guys felt sort of the same way. But
they gave everybody posters. Did the first 2 do that?
Honestly, don't remember.
In other words, Tyler can be bought with posters. That's what I've heard.
I absolutely can.
Here's the thing. The first 2 movies did a really good job of bringing it down to like one small aspect of the story, humanizing the victims of the story. You cared about the people, the family with John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, their kids. And then you cared about the island. You cared about Cillian Murphy, who had lost his family and all in the second one. This one, when I watched the main attack, and I'm also still very much the Cloverfield fan, of which this almost worked its way into that universe when they were in production with the first one, that when I see this, when I watch the beginning, when it first happens, I want to know more of the big picture scope of New York because there's 2 things that I really want to know that didn't happen in this movie, and I don't know if we'll ever get answered because I don't know if we'll go back to the before A Quiet Place. One, clearly the government knew something was happening because they were like, hey, get on the bus. We got to go back. They're calling it in. Helicopters are flying over. The army's there before anything.
That's a way more interesting story, by the way.
Right. And that's where I want to get into, like, because with what I thought Cloverfield did really well, because there are a lot of comparisons between the 2, especially this one, which is in New York, was it did a good job of, it brought the kind of human element with following that one group of friends, but they kept running into the military along the way that was kind of helping explain, hey, here's the government stance on it. Here's where the world is on it right now as we kind of go, here's how the media is covering it, all that. But then the other thing is, and I thought this may be some kind of saving grace at the end, if they show how the monsters, aliens, whatever, got off Manhattan. Because their whole thing is they blew the bridges, they blew every single thing to the island, and all the people could get on the ship and be gone perfectly free. But A Quiet Place takes place in upstate New York, way far away from it, to where, I mean, Eddie jumps off into the water. Okay, we're safe. We're away from, I guess New York's gone, or I guess Manhattan's gone, but that's it. Well, show me something. And I know there's other ways you can go through the tunnels or whatever to get out that it probably happened, but like, let a post-credit scene be there. Let something lead into A Quiet Place. Nothing in this except for the guy's name I can't say, Jimin Hunsu or whatever, being a part of this and being a part of the island in the second one. Outside of that, there's nothing to tie it in. It's like, give me a little nugget somewhere in here because Lupita Nyong'o's going to die either from being sick or the aliens get her, and she ends up just kind of letting the aliens take her out at the end. And then Eddie's alive somewhere. I'm going to call him Eddie, but like he's out there somewhere with this island supposedly. So what ends up happening? There's just so many questions. As like for this to be a prequel, I kind of want it to lead in when you watch like the Star Wars prequel is leading into how Darth Vader became that way. Like I want to know kind of the secret behind what happened before A Quiet Place, because it starts like day 400 something. Right. That like I need more from this to actually be a prequel. There's nothing about this other than they fell out of the sky. Well, we knew that from the second one.
It barely even takes place on day 1. Most of it is day 2 and 3.
That's true.
That's right.
I think one thing that could have helped would have been, since we have seen the second one, except for Tyler, but we've seen the second one, so we know about the island. Like maybe they could have done a scene with Eddie and the cat at that island at some point. Like they could have showed that.
And I know it's tough now, but I still think a Cillian Murphy cameo would have been the perfect thing. If you're going to bring somebody back, don't bring back John Krasinski. Don't bring back Emily Blunt. Bring him back.
My opinion, the marketing of this movie promised that the world would get bigger, and instead it got smaller. And I don't know how they did that.
See, that's why I want the government angle of things, because that would make it bigger.
Yeah, that would have been better.
But you know what it is? It's we don't really have to provide a lot of answers as long as we keep providing interesting questions. So let's just keep this cash cow running. And I don't like that. I don't. I think it's a cheap way to not have to narratively write out exactly how this whole thing is transpiring, because they're providing a lot of cover. I didn't like the set design. I didn't like the fact that it seemed like the horde of people that were moving down the street already knew, like, you got to be pretty quiet, which, by the way, they figured out real quick in this movie. Like,
I did notice that.
Guys, we got to be quiet because that's how they kill us.
And this is a question for the group. Was she just maybe thinking that she was going to die, but did she honestly think the pizza place was going to be open?
I was wondering that too. Like, what are they
did she honestly think that? Like, I mean, the world is literally ending around
from the
you.
beginning. She knows. You know it's going to be destroyed, right? You know it's going to be destroyed,
but
right?
Yeah, every time she brought it up, he was able to find some pizza.
Another place was perfectly fine.
I was okay with her in that moment going, that was her singular focus, because it had been her singular focus before the attack of I've got to get that pizza. So I think she was just kind of like out of her mind of like,
I guess you're just like, oh, I really want this. Like,
I was fine with that. What kills me is the pizza place was absolutely decimated, the one she wanted to go to, but Eddie went to a pizza place that was perfectly fine, and the bar they were in was perfectly fine.
It had an edible pizza there, right?
It had
edible pizza that I hope that they don't get food poisoning from.
Now, to be fair, because Laura's like, how did they have a pizza? Obviously, he didn't make it. Like, I will say, going through New York City pizza places, they put a ton in like the display window, but that means there's a ton out there.
That's all I'm saying.
Been sitting there for a week, and no monster sniffed that and said, pizza or anything. I mean,
I want to get back to the horde of people that are walking down the street, obviously to try to be saved, but they're just kind of like, they look like they're on Skid Row.
Like zombies.
They look like Skid Row, Little Shop of Horrors, like, down on Skid, down on Skid. Anyway, and it's a very, I'm sorry to bring that back up to a better movie.
Only half this room can appreciate it.
But they all kind of know the rules, right? You don't make a lot of noise, you don't get attacked. That's how they've been able to stay alive, get in a huge group to go down the street. One thing happens and all of a sudden they all start screaming and panicking. And I'm like, did you not already learn? Like, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
And I understand terror sets in, so I'm going to give it a little bit of a pass. The only real thing that I really liked about this movie was the scene under the car with the tire pressure going out and she's stuck crazy. And it's like pretty tense. And I'm like, okay, now this feels, I know she's going to escape, but it feels like that's a horrible situation to be in. And I put myself in that.
And maybe this is bad on me, but like at that point, you can tell she's so weak from like not having her medicine and stuff like that, that when her foot got completely caught up under the car, I'm like, there's no way she can actually legitimately pull herself out from this car as this is happening. She can hardly stand up straight, but it was like, I'm going to pull myself completely out of a car that's falling on top of me.
I actually thought the cat was going to lift it off of her, but
I thought Joseph Quinn was going to come by at that point. That was where he didn't even show up till 45 minutes.
I mean,
the movie,
this is like a redemption arc for him. I know Tim hasn't seen Stranger Things, but Tyler and John and I have seen it. Spoiler alert.
I don't care.
I mean, spoiler alert. At least like
it's been 2 years, but yeah.
I mean, everyone knows what happens to Eddie. I mean, I think he gets redemption in this one. It's okay.
Well, Quiet Place Day One, once again, gave the promise of we're going to put this bigger in scope. New York, the biggest city. You're going to see the origins of this. You're going to get some answers. And I just feel like it's a bait and switch, which is why they decided on the final day to have the review embargo lifted. Is it a great sort of standalone, throwaway, disposable monster invasion movie? I could see the element of yes, it is.
It's a great standalone Netflix monster
Yes.
movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If this was on Netflix and I was just bored flipping through and it wasn't called A Quiet Place, I'd probably give it a 3.5 out of 5 instead of a 2.5 out of 5 and say, yeah, it was fine to sit at home and watch this movie.
I gave this thing a 2 out of 5 because it really does make the world smaller when it's supposed to be, giving us even more context. And I feel like if you just skip this one completely and you watch whenever A Quiet Place Part 3 comes out, you will not be lost in any regard with what actually happened on day one.
You find through John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, you find everything you need to know about what happened from day one until now, how the world reacted to it. There's newspaper clippings and all that kind of stuff. They still print newspapers during part of this, apparently. But there's that, and you learn how to kill them, too, to where you have gone through the whole journey, and here it's like, oh, we're going backwards. It's like, all you have to do to kill them is have a hearing aid go off wrong, and then they're going to open up and pow, shoot them with a shotgun. I just spoiled it, Tyler. Sorry, but I mean, like knowing all that already.
Kind of like Mars Attacks. Honestly.
I think it added just a little to this film, like just a little bit, knowing like, hey, I know what the story ends up being with these monsters. But just seeing it alone, it's like you're kind of missing out if you haven't seen the first two because that's the actual superior experience.
I went to go see Daddy-O immediately after this, and I feel like it was the better New York movie out of the two. But I was expecting, I got the worlds confused there, and I was expecting the Death Angel to come down and take the taxi cab that Sean Penn was in and throw it across the river. Anyway, that's going to do it for our Quiet Place Day 1 review. I think that, John, you're at 2.5 stars. I'm at 2 stars out of 5. Laurel, you're at 3.
3. Yeah.
And then, Tyler, you're at 4 out of 5.
I am. I really enjoyed the movie.
Excellent. And I don't want to take away your enjoyment of it. I really don't.
I'm proud of you, Tyler.
I am too. I just think that you're going to actually benefit from having seen this one first, and then the second one is the best one, and then the part 2 will enhance that one even more. So it's going to get confusing talking about this. However, it's not confusing talking about our title sponsor. That's MyBookie.
MyBookie.ag. Promo code next round. See it in the bottom corner right here. Use that when you go to MyBookie.ag. Use that. Get a first deposit bonus on us. Play the Sportsbook Casino, live casino. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere. MyBookie.ag.
Join us for the Meltdown daily, 2 o'clock Central, 3 o'clock Eastern, right here on Meltdown 24/7.